So the aim then to agree a massive loan to cover Ukraine's military and other financial needs for the next 2 years. European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen telling lawmakers on the eve of the summit last night, we know the urgency, it is acute. Many leaders pressing for tens of billions of euros in frozen Russian assets to be used. Most of the roughly 210 billion euros in those assets is held in the EU, sits with a Belgian-based company, making Belgium and several other member states very hesitant to do that. Well, Ursula von der Leyen spoke in the last hour on the way into that summit. Let's hear what she had to say.
Made two proposals, two options on the table for this funding. One is funding through the EU budget, borrowing against the budget, and the second possibility is the reparations loan. We have to find a solution today. The President of the Council said, and I support him in that, we will not leave the European Council without a solution for the funding for Ukraine for the next 2 years.
Ursula von der Leyen there. Well, let's cross then live to the summit. We're going to talk to our correspondent Dave Keating, who joins us from there. Dave, we're going to start with Ukraine. What might not be agreed today? It looks like it could well be a very long session.
It looks like it will be a long summit, maybe even lasting until Saturday, because the chair, Antonio Costa, has said he will keep the leaders here as long as it takes before they get an agreement to get funding to Ukraine, because this is the last chance. Ukraine is going to run out of money in April. This is the last summit before then. If they don't have an agreement here, Ukraine may have to no other choice but to surrender to Russia. Now, you heard in that soundbite there from Commission President Ursula von der Leyen that she's laid out two possibilities to get money to Ukraine. In reality, one of those possibilities has effectively already been ruled out, and that is what she called borrowing against the budget. That means taking out joint debt. And we know that Germany is always opposed to that. We remember from the Eurozone crisis days, they do not want collective EU debt. But not only has Germany ruled that out, also Hungary is the problem there, because Hungary vetoes now everything involving Ukraine, anything that they say would prolong the war. And that issue, that taking out of joint debt, needs unanimity. So even if Berlin were to get over its fear of collective debt and say yes to that, they'll never get Hungary to vote for that. The other possibility, which is the reparations loan, does not need unanimity, and that means that Viktor Orban can't veto it. So that's really what they're working on now. However, most of those frozen Russian assets are here in Belgium at the Euroclear clearinghouse, and the Belgian Prime Minister Bart de Wever is worried that if Russia launches a successful legal challenge after the end of the war, then the Belgian taxpayers will be on the hook for paying that judgment. He wants the EU collectively to be on the hook for that. He's looking for unlimited guarantees to that effect. Now, legal analysts have said it's unlikely that Russia would win such a legal challenge to this. However, de Wever has said it may be unlikely, but just like with a plane crash, the consequences would be catastrophic, and you don't not prepare a plane for a plane crash just because it's unlikely. So he said, just coming in this morning, he is still unsatisfied with what's on the table. Germany has been particularly reluctant to give these type of unlimited guarantees, Germany not being terribly helpful here either way. So that's what they're going to try to get passed here today. They have to try to convince de Wever to change his mind. Now, I should point out, as I said, this only needs a qualified majority of countries, so they could technically outvote Belgium. They have the votes to do that, but I think it's very unlikely that we walk out of here with that as the solution, because it would be very weird to outvote Belgium and then command Belgium to hand over this money. There's a very real possibility Belgium would refuse, provoking an EU constitutional crisis. So that is one possibility that's there, but I think they need Belgium to say yes or at least abstain in order to pass this.
It's interesting you use that analogy there of the plane crash, Dave. I mean, there's another potential plane crash, isn't there? This is over Mercosur, a major issue. France, a major player in this one too.
Yeah, this is the elephant in the room, both figuratively and literally, because as I came into the summit this morning, I was surrounded by protesting farmers. 10,000 of them, we're told, have converged here on Brussels in their tractors to protest against the possible imminent signing of this Mercosur deal. That's an EU free trade deal with countries in South America, including Brazil and Argentina. That's been worked on for 25 years. We are very, very close to finally getting that over the line, but France is objecting because of pressure from the French agricultural lobby. We've seen lots of protests in France about this, but this is another majority voting issue, so France can be outvoted on that. The key person to watch on that today is Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni. She's been quiet, but yesterday she seemed to come on France's side and said, let's delay this, there's no rush. Experts say there is a rush. Patience is running out on the Mercosur side. Lula is said to be not willing to do this after Brazil ends its rotating presidency of Mercosur, and so it's thought that if they don't get a deal on Mercosur in the next days, agreement among EU member states, Mercosur is dead, and that would have larger implications for global free trade in the era of Trump and tariffs. The world would take that as a signal that, okay, the global free trade order is dead. So there are huge implications for what happens. The Mercosur issue is not technically on the agenda at this summit, but leaders are not going to be able to avoid it. If a vote does happen, because it needs to happen before Ursula von der Leyen travels to Brazil on Saturday for a signing ceremony for Mercosur, that vote will happen not in this building, in a building next door with national representatives, but it's clear that they're going to need the go-ahead from the prime ministers and presidents here before they can do that. So it's those two issues dominating this summit that may keep us here till Saturday, both Mercosur and the frozen Russian assets.